twice. Can you hear me?
Hello and welcome to Journey Intelligence Weekly, your briefing on the latest news and trends in the world of AI. I'm Jordan Roberts, here with Mark Pizzoli, and we're both from Journey Alliance, the proud sponsors of this series. Thank you for joining us. Before we get started, we would like this to be interactive, so if you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the chat so that we can incorporate them as we go. And if at any point you're curious about how AI might be able to apply for you and your work, you can scan the QR code there in the corner and it will take you to our website where you can learn more about our AI training. And with that said, we're going to jump into some of the latest news this week. We'll start with Anthropic having to apologize for using incorrect testimony during a lawsuit. So Anthropic is the company behind Claude, which is something similar to ChatGPT, and it used an inaccurate title and author in a testimony on a legal document, which apparently went through or was missed in manual review, more than one manual review. So they were forced to apologize and try to rectify that mistake. But that's a pretty big deal. Pretty big snafu.
Yeah. Not good on the PR front, but I mean, this goes back to you just have to have good process and human review. I mean, obviously they were using AI to generate it, otherwise, at least we would assume so, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think a reiteration of probably what we've said a few times here is that the human element is still critical, and you should probably double check because they said it was missed even in manual review. So double check.
Yeah, humans are the quality check always, and need to continue to be so for now. People make mistakes too, but I'm not sure that right now it's a sensitive time, so people are not as they're not as okay with you submitting AI documentation of any kind that has mistakes in it. So be on the lookout. Yeah.
What have you heard in the news, Mark?
Yeah, I saw an interesting piece. So there was a study published. They got 900 volunteers. They matched them against either humans or an AI on hot button topics for a debate. And they found out that AI could outperform a human debater 64% of the time. So that was specifically in online debates. And I mean, we all know that stat's made up because nobody wins an online debate.
Yeah.
But so in this case, the people did not know they would be debating AI. So as far as they knew, they were debating a real person. They were unaware to the end of the test. And so what they found out as part of the test was the only time the AI had the advantage was when demographic data on their opponent was available to the AI. So they're pointing at basically the arguments were kind of micro personalized to their opponent, and if they knew about their opponent, it made them debate their opponent more effectively.
Wow, that's really interesting, actually. Why is that, you think?
I think it has to do with people's biases, so they can play on the other person's biases based on what they learned about them. In this case, the prompt layer that the GPT-4, so they use GPT-4 for this, right? The chatbots were powered by GPT-4, and in the prompt layer, they could infer age, gender, and politics from their past social media posts, and so they use that to personalize their arguments. So and it was effective in moving the needle. So I'm pretty sure that the backing here, right? The primary goal of this was to understand what kind of a risk this is for misinformation during voting season, things like that. And I think they saw what they were expecting to see. So, but there's definitely something here. Like if you know enough about the person you are targeting, you can improve your outcome, and AI can help you micro personalize, right? So or personalize at scale.
Yeah, that's really cool. Really, a really good connection to marketing with that. Although, yeah.
So the note coming out of this, I would just like as a takeaway for small businesses, like whatever your opinion of this is, like this likely isn't this level of personalization in your outreach to potential clients, to potential employees, is probably not currently touched on in your AI policy, and it's probably something you should consider adding, right? Like what is okay and what's not okay for your brand to do, and so far as your personalization goes related to AI. So something to think about.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So in updates on some of these AI platforms, startup Manus AI unveils an image generator with intent and workflow planning. So I think the best way to explain that is to describe the example that I watched of this in action. The user put in a picture of their living room and they said, "Help me decorate this room based on the style of the home." And Manus AI took that picture and actually went to the IKEA website and found a bunch of furniture that matched that style, and then put it in the room so that you could see what it would look like. But it also, in the image, included links so that if the person liked that, they could go to the IKEA website and buy it.
So I'm still hung up on, you're telling me there's an AI available that knows how to navigate the IKEA website? Because like that feels like it's not something that's like even possible for humans.
Well, actually, I think more than that, I would be more impressed if it could put the IKEA furniture together.
One day.
One day, yeah, that would be nice. So I'm just thinking of uses for that. My first thought was, oh wow, it can help me design my home, right? But I think there's, I'm thinking of potentials to input plans in there and other kinds of images, because it's not like ChatGPT where you're like, generate this image for me. It goes a little further in what it's capable of doing, and it really kind of sounds like the limit to that one is whatever you can imagine to ask it.
Yeah, I mean, like if like we're very much at the beginning of this agentic phase, right? So if the task can be accomplished online, there's no reason to think that you can't get one of these AIs that are agentic in nature, right? There's no reason to think that that there isn't some application out there that can solve your problem, right? Online, they can go and get your solution. So everything is moving in that direction at a very good clip. So interestingly, so I mean, there was a big, what I think was a big step forward this week was announced. I don't know, it's been 8 days. So last week, Google announced something they call Alpha Evolve. So it's a Gemini powered evolutionary coding agent. So this is obviously their marketing speak, but it can create its own algorithms to solve problems, right? So it doesn't just solve problems the way we would solve them and then do it faster. it can look at a problem and come up with an algorithm and come up with iterations of an algorithm and improve it while it seeks out a solution to the problem. And case in point, for Google, they've got it live in production internally, and Google's a very big company, right? It's already saved them 0.7% of their compute globally. So this is a very big company that uses a lot of compute, and 0.7% likely is somewhere on the scale of tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars a month. So
Wow.
So it's probably tens of millions, 0.7, but I mean, tens of millions a month, maybe 100 million a year. Like that's a lot of money for some to find something that can make an improvement of that scale in relatively short order. Additionally, it sped up how long it takes the kind of next iteration Gemini AIs by 1%. And so basically, we're starting to get into this AI that can improve itself situation, right? That's kind of what we're talking about, is like, it can look back and say, oh, what if we try this, or what if we try this? So it's just kind of it's fairly obvious that we're going to head to this place, but it's the fact that this stuff is all happening so quickly is, I think, the part that I find the most interesting. Is they just continue to knock down these barriers, if you will. So from a small, go ahead.
I was going to say, it sounds like some of the things that maybe it can't do right now, that it's unreliable on, in very short order, it will become possible.
Yeah, I
to
think
use the basic ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with the layers of reasoning that they've started to add in, so that AIs can not just respond to a prompt, right, but can like reason through, what are you really trying to ask? What are you inferring by what you ask? And really look deep, and then basically plan, and then learn new information, and then replan, and learn new information and replan. That's what humans do, right? We do that all the time. We don't think that that's what we're doing, but ultimately, like, okay, I'm going to do it this way. Oh, that didn't work. I'll try it a different way. And I mean, you watch kids, that's exactly what they try like 20 different iterations. They're trying different problem or different solutions to the problem, and eventually they find something that works. And that's what we're starting to see come out in these AIs. But the scale and the speed of them is really what's interesting. So I think from a small business owner's angle, where you might see an impact here is, you might be able to kind of auto tune workloads that you run in the clouds in the future, right? So and then you might be able to have a service that optimizes your bill. Right now, that's a very human centric problem of making sure you're using the right compute at the right time, and you might be able to automate it, but you still have to create your own logic to automate it. And this might be like a thing where, like, just, hey, go make sure that I'm not overspending on compute, and it just figures out the how. You just tell it the what, and it figures out the how to get it done. So I think it's pretty interesting.
It's pretty interesting, and that makes it make more sense looking at it that way.
Yeah.
So speaking of kind of creating a unified experience, OpenAI is reportedly building GPT-4. So right now we've got, what is it, 4.0, 03 mini.
You mean
There's a
GPT-5?
lot. Yeah, the new one that would be coming out. They're building that. That would be the next one. And the goal of it is to combine multiple capabilities like chat, coding, memory, web browsing, and file interaction into one interface. So they're trying to deepen the user reliance and tool integration, and kind of build up agent-like behavior, so that you're not having to go and find multiple tools. It could happen late this year or early next year.
Interesting. Yeah, I find myself often like, I wish I could interact with ChatGPT and have it save kind of where we're at to a file, so that we can just come back here later and I don't have to use the same exact chat stream. I could basically have documents that are just getting improved over time, and maybe they're being accessed by multiple chat streams, to be honest, right? So
Yeah.
So I think file access is really interesting for that. I think that's a really there's a gap there right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like file access is one thing. I don't want to have to input things. And I want it to move towards that. I don't want to have to say, here's this transcript. I want it to just have the transcript from a meeting. And we're not there yet, but
we're getting there pretty quickly. That, it's funny, is we all want, I hear a lot of people reference like, oh, I just want it to like have what it needs, but I also want to maintain my privacy, and therein lies like the rub, right? Like, it's like, how do I give it access to everything and make sure it's not overreaching or sharing information about me we don't want shared. So
yeah, I was gonna say I don't, and maybe it's maybe a my generation thing because my information's never been private. Like, I've always been on social media. I've always been on the internet pretty much. I just want to know that it's secure. They can have it. I just want to know that it's secure. And if that meant convenience for me, I'm okay with it having access. Although I'm sure you, as the resident IT guy, are not okay with that.
I mean, it's interesting. So on one part, I agree with you. Like, there's certain aspects of things that we just need to let go of. They shouldn't be. They just aren't private anymore, right? Like, you can pretend they're private, but they're really not. And so I think there is an attitude that maybe generations, people that are younger than me have, where it's like, look, it was inevitable, right? So they don't care as much. At the same time, that's great for things that it is inevitable that people know, but like, that's not great for your bank account. It's not great for your credit card.
Well, yes,
like that,
of course.
right? I mean, so
yeah,
and that's the challenge with AI is it's so broad, especially when if you want it to truly be your assistant. As a business coach, I talk to business owners all the time about how they interact with their assistants, and that that's the person at the office that they have to trust or have the most trust in, right? That person has access to everything, and not just in their business life, also in their personal life usually. So and for AI to be that person, that whatever you want to call that thing, right?
Yeah.
That assistant, it needs that level of access. But then how do we, to your point, how do we make sure it's secure? How do we make sure it's only being shared at the right time, to the right, other services or people? So it's interesting because another thing I spotted this week was that Microsoft announced that they are going to support Model Context Protocol, something called MCP. It's been I was going to say it's an up and coming protocol. The reality is it's a very new protocol, as with everything that's related to AI. Everything's happening very quickly. But MCP is a relatively recently created protocol to allow AI agents to communicate with applications more directly, right? So what they're trying to avoid is a situation where the AI agent is interfacing with applications via kind of a proxy of a keyboard and mouse, because you lose control of things a little bit when it's they don't know if it's the user or if it's another application, right? So having applications interface as if they are the user using the keyboard and mouse, you have no choice but to kind of trust them like they're the user. Yeah. So using MCP, it's an AI system, and that's what this kind of adds in, if you will, right? So now it'll go through a proxy, and it can be like, has the owner of this computer approved, ChatGPT talking to, their Notion desktop, or talking to or viewing their screen, or things along those lines. So you start to get you get that control that you would normally see. You get those little user access control messages on your computer. Are you okay with this? Do you allow this? And so you get to decide what your AI does and doesn't have access to. So the way to think of MCP is it's kind of like the USB-C of AI communicating, of applications in the AI world communicating with each other. The fact that Windows is like jumping on board very, very early is pretty interesting. MCP is open source, so Microsoft's basically saying we're not going to build our own. We're gonna go with the open source version, which is great, better for everyone. And the MCP already has backing of Anthropic, Perplexity, and Adobe. So I think that it's a protocol that likely is here to stay at this point, especially with Microsoft's backing. We'll see who else jumps in, and I think it's going to be the other really big player who needs to chime in at some point is going to be Apple, because of how the iOS operating system works. Like what they tend to do things their own way, at least at first. So it'll be interesting to see where they land on the whole thing. So
Yeah, I've been reading some articles about them. They're toying with it, but it doesn't sound like they're quite at the same level as Microsoft, which is interesting coming from Apple, given their usual innovation. So I wonder if maybe they have other things kind of in the works in the background that we're just not hearing about yet.
oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I don't expect them to fall behind. We've got a comment though about the AI assistant from Brittany, and she's saying, if AI is my executive assistant, it requires the same level of trust that you would put in that person who has access to your life. So just echoing and agreeing with what you were saying there.
I mean, like to function, right? Your executive assistant kind of to do some relatively basic things, they have to have your credit card. They have to have your, if they're going to book a flight for you, they need your driver's license number. They need your login to the airline. They need your password, right? And then they also need your trust that when you say you can only use it this one time, right? You trust your executive assistant is, whether they write it down or not, knows that means I have to ask again next time. So, what you might, whoever is in control of that assistant, if you will, has to have that level of trust for it to really be functional, right? For it to work as well as they want it to.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of go back on what I said earlier, I'm not sure I would be comfortable with maybe the bank account access, but if it can help me manage my calendar more effectively, like I'm okay with that. So there definitely need to be some levels of what you can allow it to do.
Yeah.
So, next topic, I think you were talking about Flowwith unveiling an infinite agent, and there's some reference to Matrix, which I have not seen. So you take it away, Mark, because you
I'm still
understand the
kind of blown away.
references.
I can't believe you need to go watch The Matrix, especially in the world that we live in. So, little startup called Flowwith unveiled kind of just a little quiet drop in their changelog on the 20th, right? So just a couple days ago, they announced what's called Agent Neo. And those of you that have seen The Matrix will get that. And it is an agent with it will run a limitless number of steps, right? So you can set it on a task that's recursive, meaning it would just it has to do it over and over again, and it would just continue to work. It runs in the cloud. So even if your browser has to be restarted, you need to leave your session, you need to reboot your computer, that agent can just keep working for you. So it's kind of like, if you think about it, it's a little bit step forward. Right now, like GPT Operator Pro, right? Or GPT Pro Operator, if you lose your session, you've got to go and restart it. And so it might have to actually restart some of the work it's done. But in this case, in Neo's case, that's not the way it works. It runs in the cloud. So the entire thing's built on what Flowwith calls their Oracle agent, another Matrix Easter egg, if you will. So that architecture, the Oracle agent architecture, already supports calling other tools, right? And then things like replanning, which we were talking about earlier, how we're going to reason and plan through things. So, and they back in the whole thing with GPT 4.0, Gemini 2.5 Flash, and Claude 3.5. So they have access to all the newest AIs, and they're doing what they call ensemble reasoning by accessing all three AIs to do the reasoning, so that they get the nuances, they get the best parts of each when they're doing their replanning and they're trying to figure out how to complete a task. So you can think about this as kind of an always-on AI teammate, right? Like you could set it on hey, go build content, and it's just 24 hours a day it's creating content, or go work on this research task. And so I think given the right task that creates value for you as a business, like something like this could, I went and checked out the pricing. I haven't had a chance to play with it yet, but I mean, the pricing was anywhere from, a low end account was like $20, and at the high end was, $500 a month. So depending on the capabilities and the speed it works at, for a lot of companies, $500 a month for 24/7 doing a certain task could well be worth it. So it's worth noting that since this hit the news, they're now only taking, you have to have you need a key to get a new account. So I couldn't even get an account set up for now. If someone has a key, feel free to send it out over.
Well, I was wondering, so you said that it uses what models in the background?
So what I read was 4.0, Gemini 2.5 Flash, and Claude 3.5.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking with the tendency of some of those to hallucinate some information, it can run in the background, but absolutely still needs to be checked.
That's with anything.
Yeah, like with anything right now. So I just wanted to put that out there, though. Gotta check your stuff.
So I was I got some feedback after our last couple sessions that people wanted the occasional practical tip, and so I wanted to. I thought about that this week, and I was like, what's something practical that I can tell everyone? And I landed on, I think, what are the two most important words to add to any query. And I think a lot of people run a lot of queries, a lot of prompts, right? And what I would encourage you to consider adding to the end of every query is just "and why," right? So getting an opinion, or what are the best of these, or which I saw somebody on TikTok recently at Costco having ChatGPT pick out a watermelon for it, but really you should add "and why," right? So two reasons. One reason is we should never stop learning. So ChatGPT educating you as it's solving problems for you. It can educate you with the why. So maybe next time you could pick out your own watermelon when you don't have your phone handy. But also, it helps you. It gives you a little bit more context, so you can see that the response passes what I like to call the sniff test, right? Like, does this, is this response real? Does it make sense, right? Knowing the justification gives you a lot more context about the answer. So anytime you're asking for information and it makes sense, I would just add "and why" to the end. You get a much better response, in my opinion.
Yeah, it makes it more. I do something similar, and I also do the sparring partner prompt where I tell it to not just tell me what I want to hear, not just be positive. That has helped me think more deeply. I've seen a lot of people be kind of concerned, is AI going to make us more stupid because we just rely on it for everything? I think that's a good way to kind of curb that, especially if you kind of start noticing yourself relying on it for basic things like that. Just asking it "and why." I've used that in my master's program all the time when I don't understand something. I'm like, how do I solve this and why, like step by step, so that I can understand it fully.
So how is AI doing in your master's program?
Oh, I'm not using AI to take my master's program, but it has helped me understand very difficult math concepts by explaining them to me like I'm 5 and then building up. Stacy here, though, as we're closing out, Stacy said that she doesn't like the idea of AI completely generating her content. It loses the personal touch and some of the credibility, like when you call a customer service line and can't get a person. I think that's a really interesting point as we start leaning more into AI and technology. We're going to start looking for that personal touch. Like I do think that the pendulum will kind of swing that way, and people will look for the personal touch.
But how will you know you're getting the personal touch is really going to be, that's the fundamental.
And that's, yeah.
I don't think content's dead today, but like if we go forward 5 years, there's going to be like, how are you going to discern, I don't even know what real human content we like. How do you discern, content versus AI generated content? And what if it's just coming out of the echo chamber, right? At some point, it's just AI training on AI content, producing more AI content. And I'm not a big naysayer, but like, I just think that there's not a way to police it, and so
Yeah.
inevitably people will start to look for new places to connect with others. And I think relationships, real world and online, but like relationships are going to become crucial, right, to a lot of people. Like when they start to look for like, oh, what software do I use for this? It's going to be about like the networks that they have access to and the things that people they know are telling them to try versus reading reviews online and things like that. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that's all of our time here. So thank you everyone for joining us and interacting. This, there was a lot of interaction that makes it very fun. So we appreciate that. And if you're wondering how you can use AI in your role, you can scan the QR code in the corner there and it will take you to our landing page that will tell you more about you pointed to it the first time. You had it.
one of the two corners. I don't know.
It's somewhere in the corner. Anyway, it'll show you more about our AI training and let you learn how you can apply that in your job. And we'll be back here next Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern with more AI news.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.